Hello, everyone. My name is Brianna Michelle Meyer, and welcome to A Case for Tilney, a deeper look into Northanger Abbey. This is part of Virtual JaneCon, an online Jane Austen event. Welcome, and let's dive into this. When people ask me who my favorite Jane Austen man is, I always shock them with my answer. It's Mr. Tilney from Northanger Abbey. And I always get asked this question. Why Northanger Abbey? And I always respond back, why not? Since I first read this book years and years ago, it stayed with me. And like all book to film fans out there, I sought out any version I could find. Here's the thing. It was way too easy for me to find a film adaptation because the book has only been adapted twice for television, once in the 1980s for A&E and the BBC, and again in 2007 for ITV as part of their Jane Austen season. But what has always baffled me is that it's studied so widely in romantic literature classes in the university and higher academia levels. That led me to the question I want to find an answer for. Why is Northanger Abbey under-adapted when it's studied so widely? If you have seen my past virtual JaneCon videos, you know I love looking at more modern-day adaptations of Jane's works. This year I'm pivoting to figure out why we have less of her very first book, but ultimately published posthumously. So here's what we're going to do. We're going over some background behind the journey of the book. Then we're going to discuss just the plot in basic terms, followed by the characters and the themes of the book. After that, we're going to shift gears to period dramas from 1980 on, and we're going to be mentioning a lot. And then that will lead us to the Jane Austen Revival, as I like to call it. So we can briefly look at the 2007 version. And after that, we're going to go back to the question I'm trying to figure out the answer to. I got most of my notes from the Penguin Classics edition for the background, and for the adaptation section, I got my notes from the Union Square edition of the book. There's a section in the back that discusses all the adaptations, which I found helpful. Northanger Abbey is the first book written by Jane Austen that was ready for publication. It was written in 1798 to 1799, when Austen was around 23 to 24 years of age. The book was mostly set in Bath, where Austen visited with her wealthy aunt and uncle, as well as her brother Edward. As we know, Austen lived in Bath properly from 1801 until her father's passing. When Northanger Abbey was finished in 1803, Austen sold it to Benjamin Crosby and Co. for £10. That would be roughly $1,071.67 in today's terms. However, the book was never published. Eventually, she got the book back, but she never saw it published in her lifetime. In truth, after her passing, Austen was popular, but kinda. Authors after her had differing views on her works, and it wasn't until the 1900s that we got people actually studying her works and having them be adapted. But we do know that Austen was a popular writer. One thing to mention, and it is important, is that Austen made Northanger Abbey like a game for readers. Because Austen references books that were written during that time, those who read Northanger Abbey when it came out would recognize them. I also believe that this book being written in the late 1700s makes it more Georgian than Regency-era literature. A lot of this comes from the main location being Bath. Bath was a very popular spa town. In fact, the first 20 chapters of Northanger Abbey takes place in the city. However, Georgian and Regency eras interlap because they are pairs to each other. History is like that. Periods of time can last very long to the point of sub-eras. I brought up the popularity of Bath because another area was going to become very popular during the Regency era, Brighton. I have been to both Bath and Brighton during my semester abroad in London, both are incredibly historical places that are still actively modern. Also, to put more things into perspective, the War of 1812 and Napoleon were all during Austen's time of writing and publication. Now, I'd like to discuss the plot of the book. I'm going to go in and assume that a lot of us already know this book, and I don't think I have to give a spoiler warning for a book written so long ago, but I will. The plot of the novel is this. Catherine Morland is invited to go to Bath with the wealthy Allen family. Once there, Catherine finds herself attracted to Mr. Henry Tilney, a man who has an excellent understanding of muslin gowns. She then finds herself acquainted to Isabella Thorpe, whose brother John is friends with Catherine's brother James at Oxford. Isabella sees how naive Catherine is and takes her under her wing. However, the Thorpes don't like the Tilneys and try to keep Catherine away from them. But this is Catherine Morland. She likes the Tilneys a lot. Eventually, James and Isabella are engaged, and while James is away, the elder Tilney brother comes to town and flirts with Isabella. The Tilneys invite Catherine to spend time with them at Northanger Abbey, and Catherine accepts. Once there, Catherine's imagination takes over, and she believes that General Tilney, the patriarch of the family, murdered his wife. Henry catches her and tells her that she reads too many stories at times. General Tilney leaves the house, and the atmosphere is a lot calmer there. Catherine finds out that James has called off his engagement with Isabella, and then discovers that, Captain Tilney really just a massive flirt. Catherine ends her relationship with the Thorpes. Then, when Henry is absent, General Tilney arrives back home and in a temper kicks Catherine out of the house, at night, all alone and unsafe. At Catherine's house, sometime later, Henry arrives and tells her that due to misinformation from John Thorpe, General Tilney believed Catherine to be a very rich because she was supposedly the Allen heiress, and that was why she was invited to the Abbey. Then when the general was in London, who did he run into? John Thorpe, angry that Catherine turned down his proposal, oh honey, no, and said she was destitute. So, because of John Thorpe, General Tilney viewed Catherine as an unsuitable match to Henry, and when Henry came back home only to find Catherine thrown out, does he realize what had happened? He breaks from his father and tells Catherine he loves her and asks her to marry him. Of course, he's a gentleman. After all, he understands muslin, and asks her parents for approval. But in true Jane Austen fashion, they're able to get married once Eleanor Tilney marries a wealthy, entitled man, and General Tilney finds out the Morlands are just rich. Now, I want to discuss the characters, but only 5 of them. They are Catherine Morland, Henry Tilney, Isabella Thorpe, John Thorpe, and General Tilney. First of all, Austen Revival tells us, as readers, that Catherine is not who you would suspect as a heroine. For me, the first chapter literally drags the Morlands to filth. I mean, Austen takes a dig at Catherine's dad being named Richard. We learn that Catherine was a tomboy, and then at 17 was very much a reader, and had her nose in books. Catherine is also naive, and so fresh to the world that it's easy for her to be swept into things. Isabella Thorpe uses that to her advantage. As Catherine navigates Bath society, her friendship with the Thorpes, and the slow blossoming of her relationship with the Tilneys, Catherine finds herself in situations where she has to explain herself to one or the other. Eventually, Catherine is at Northanger Abbey when her reader mind takes over, and she's so sure that General Tilney was responsible for his wife's death. By the end of the book, Catherine has learned that stories are just that, stories. If I was to compare Catherine to other bookish characters, she's like Anne Shirley with her love of stories, but Catherine is also so different from Anne. And if one wants to make a Taylor Swift reference, Catherine isn't ever more girly. Henry Tilney's introduction is iconic to me because he understands muslin gowns. He's a second son and a clergyman by trade, but he also understands the gothic novels that Catherine has read. He's that type of man who teases you, but does it in such a caring way that you don't know that he's teasing you. And as the novel goes on, you just fall in love with this man because he's just different. He isn't a masculine hero that's shown in books of that time period. And yet, I love him. He just gets it. Isabella and John Thorpe are, in my opinion, antagonists of a certain degree. Isabella sees Catherine's naive nature and takes her under her wing right away to show her the ways of the world. But while Catherine is a true reader of novels, Isabella knows them for their popularity in nature and acts as a higher authority on all things. Isabella also becomes engaged to Catherine's brother, but once she finds out how much he would get, insert Captain Tilney. But Isabella also finds herself into her own naive world with him and ultimately doesn't win. Her brother John is the cause for so much of the conflict Catherine faces. He's taken by her, but Catherine is not. John mistakenly believes that Catherine will be a rich heiress, only she isn't. And so he's mad that she lied to him when he was the one who made that happen in the first place. And because he tells General Tilney this, the man is then mad at Catherine. The Thorpe siblings don't communicate well and honestly show a bit of the nature of society of that time. Money and titles mean everything. John just gives me the yuck. And then we have General Tilney, the patriarch of the Tilney family. Is very stoic, intimidating, hard to read, and casts such a cloud on Henry and Eleanor Tilney. But I can see why Catherine would be convinced that he did something to his wife. He fits the image that's painted into these novels. Now, on to the themes. I think it's apparent that the book is a take on Gothic literature of the time. It references so many books from that time that those readers would have read. That's why scholars feel like Austen plays a game with readers. If you have read these books, the references will be easy to spot. But if you haven't, they'll go right past you. That's one of the reasons why I think it's so hard to adapt. Like so many of Austen's works, Northanger Abbey is commentating on Gothic literature. Another thing is that it's a true coming-of-age story. Catherine literally comes of age towards the end of the book. From being naive to pretty much engaged, Catherine learns to let go of her imaginative mind. The novel also discusses high society. We see that with regards to Catherine and money a la General Tilney. Now that the book discussion is done, we need to pivot over to the age of television and movies. Period dramas and the BBC are kind of synonymous now. The BBC isn't the only television channel in the UK that does period dramas. ITV has done them as well as Sky and a few other channels. In 1981, there was one period drama adaptation that was very popular, starring Jeremy Irons. Yes, I'm referring to the ITV adaptation of Brideshead Revisited. If you know what was happening at ITV at the time, it's a miracle that this adaptation was even made. Plus, they were able to get Sir Laurence Olivier in it. This adaptation was so true to the book that it is still ranked high on so many best-of lists. The 1980s was also when Merchant Ivory hit its stride. A few highlights in the 1980s to 1990s from them: A Room with a View, Maurice, Howard's End, and The Remains of the Day. If you look at the cast from those films, so many of the actors are now well-known and household names. Granted, Dame Maggie Smith will always be a household name. And then in the 1990s, something happened. Something monumental, something so big, so grand, it created the wave of Austen. Yes, the BBC adaptation of Pride and Prejudice created the Jane Austen Revival. If you look from when the adaptation came out to 2009, every single Austen novel was adapted. Some twice. True List, 1995, Pride and Prejudice TV miniseries, Persuasion TV film, Sense and Sensibility feature film. 1996, Emma, both the feature film and miniseries. 1999, Mansfield Park feature film. 2005, Pride and Prejudice feature film. 2007, Mansfield Park TV film. Northanger Abbey TV film. Persuasion TV film. All adaptations as part of ITV's Jane Austen season. 2008, Sense and Sensibility TV miniseries. And 2009, Emma TV miniseries. That's 12 adaptations in about a 15-year period. Now, I mentioned that in 2007, there was the ITV Jane Austen season. That's where the second Northanger adaptation lands. The ITV Jane Austen season aired Mansfield Park, starring the Queen herself, Rose Tyler, or Billie Piper, and the Persuasion adaptations starred versatile Queen Sally Hawkins, and then re-aired the 1996 Emma TV miniseries. In 2008, it aired stateside as part of PBS's masterpiece series, The Complete Jane Austen. This season aired the following: Persuasion, Northanger Abbey, Mansfield Park, Miss Austen Regrets, Pride and Prejudice 1995, Emma 1996 TV miniseries, Sense and Sensibility 2008. It then extended with a one-off for the 2009 Emma TV miniseries. And now we land on 2007 Northanger Abbey. This is honestly the second film adaptation for both, for the book. Both of them have been made for TV adaptations. Now, since we only have two versions of the book adapted into film. And the 1980s version is hard to come by and is also a choice. The 2007 adaptation being available on DVD is a blessing to us all. Actually, the 1980s adaptation encouraged Andrew Davies to write the 1985 Pride and Prejudice. Andrew Davies is a name that is well known in period drama land because he is a man who has adapted so many classic books. Just looking up his screenwriting credits makes me go, whoa. And I also know that if his name is attached to it, the adaptation will be good. It will follow the source material with some changes. However, if you haven't seen the 2002 adaptation of Daniel Deronda or the 2005 adaptation of Bleak House, please change that. The plot of the movie follows the source material very well. Davies actually plays up to the fact that the book is gothic satire by having these daydream-like sequences of Catherine imagining things would happen. They're not hokey, but plausible. The vast majority of the film is set in Bath, the last 40 or so minutes at Northanger Abbey. The casting in the adaptation is perfection, in my opinion. We have our heroine, Catherine Morland, played by biopic legend Felicity Jones. Mr. Tilney is played excellently by Fred Garland himself, J.J. Feild. The Ruby and the Smoke fans, I know you're out there. Isabella Thorpe is played by literal period drama legend Carey Mulligan. This is her second Austen film, the first being the 2005 Pride and Prejudice with her portraying Kitty Bennet, and General Tilney, played by none other than Liam Cunningham. The dialogue and pacing are excellent throughout. It fits the time period of both the book and when the production was made. It makes sense to why the book was picked to be adapted. So overall, this is an excellent adaptation. But then again, we don't have many adaptations. We don't have much to compare this version to, and it leads to the question, why is Northanger Abbey under-adapted when it's studied so widely? If you look at a syllabus for a romantic literature course, you will see Northanger Abbey as a full text studied or a text where a portion of it will be studied. But if you search for film adaptations, you only get 2 and a few loosely based ones. That's it. Here's what I think. I think it's hard to adapt Northanger Abbey on film because it's a book that's a bit too advanced for both readers and film creators. One would have to study the text, but also all the other texts mentioned in the book. The book is also a slight satire of the Gothic novel, and Gothic novels are hard to adapt. Have we ever gotten a good adaptation of Rebecca? One must either modernize it or create it to feel like modern, like Mike Flanagan, or one can create it to feel more modern like the new Persuasion film and have it done like Fleabag, but even that I don't think will do justice for the book. Since the book is written in 2 volumes, one could Greta Gerwig and play with the format. However, Austen's works did take a long time to be appreciated and adapted like they are now. Naturally, Northanger Abbey is a book a bit too complex for modern-day readers unless they know all the books mentioned in the text. If you don't know them or aren't aware of them, it will be lost in translation, resulting in why we have so little adaptations compared to other Austen works. We're entering a new era of period drama adaptations. If we go back to the 2010s, one of the biggest period dramas was Downton Abbey, which I love, by the way. Period dramas are still very much in. We could see a new Northanger Abbey created, and I'm hopeful we can get film number 3 made after the writers are done striking and are met at the table. But for now, I'll just wait and see if any other Tilney will come into our lives and understand muslin gowns. Thank you all for watching. I hope you were able to learn a bit today and maybe have added a few films to our watch list. If you'd like to reach out to me or whatnot, you can follow me on Instagram/TikTok. Otherwise, you can also sign up for my newsletter. All links will be down below in the doobly-doo. Thanks again.